just going to pop this on record. I think I've done everything that I need to do. Oh, now I got to mute you guys. Mute all. Cool. Okay, we're actually going to start standing today in Tadasana. So just come, if you stand at the top of your mat, I'm just going to stand facing you. Take your feet about as wide as the hips, lift all 10 toes, spread them really nice and wide, and then just press those toes down. And then take the hands by the sides of the body, palms facing forwards. Slightly tuck the chin, and then grow through the crown of the head. Nice. And close the eyes. And just start to become aware of the body. So maybe just gently kind of moving the weight into different parts of the feet, maybe taking like a really slow circle. Just kind of waking up the whole sole of the foot. With the eyes closed, you'll really kind of tune into this sense of touch. Maybe getting a little bit braver, sending that weight a little bit further each time. If you've been going in a circle, then just switch up that rotation. And just start to notice your breath. Not feeling like you need to change it yet, but just noticing how you're breathing this morning. Eventually bringing yourself back to center, so standing as kind of evenly weight distributed as you can. And then just take a deep inhale and open the mouth and just exhale it out. Let's just do 3 more like that. Inhale nice and deep through the nose. And then open the mouth and let it all go. 2 more. You do it at your own pace. Nice. And then just gently fluttering the eyes open, bringing some light into them. We're going to inhale, bring the hands high above the head. And then just exhale, bring the hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra, looking to the tips of the fingers, and then bringing yourself back into Tadasana. So we're going to do 5 of these using our breath, inhaling high, look up to the hands. Ardha Hastasana, bring the hands back to heart center, Anjali Mudra, and then hands down to Tadasana. Good. Do 4 more, use your own pace. So the really lovely thing about Ashtanga yoga is that eventually you kind of know the practice, okay? So when we practice Ashtanga, you follow primary series, secondary series, and generally it is pretty similar, okay? So a lot of people love Ashtanga because it's different to Vinyasa. Vinyasa is kind of a different class every time you practice, where Ashtanga is a series. And eventually you kind of memorize these movements and you can really move with your breath. Coming back to Tadasana, we're going to start to move into some of our sun salutations, okay? So I'll lead you through the first one. We're going to do Sun A first, and then I'm going to encourage you to do 2 on your own, okay? And don't even worry if you don't totally remember. I'll continue doing it, so you can always use me as a reference. So finding that Tadasana, lifting those hands up to the sky. As you exhale, draw the belly button into the spine, hinge at the hips, folding forwards. Good. Then inhale, hands either on the floor or the shins, lifting halfway. And then exhale, plant the hands onto the floor, and we're going to step back into plank pose. So stepping yourself back into plank, finding a nice strong plank here, growing through the crown of the head. And then from here, let's take a nice easy vinyasa to start. Dropping the knees, untucking the toes, and let's lower all the way onto the belly. From here, find that little baby cobra. Make sure you're pressing the tops of the feet down, hug those elbows in, and then tuck the toes, push yourself through a child's pose. Enjoy that stretch. And then press into the mat. Let's find downward dog. And in your downward dog, you stay for 5 breaths. So you can pedal the feet out. You can pad the hands down. You can nod and shake the head. Or you can be totally still. 2 more breaths here. And then looking to the hands, you're going to step 1 foot forwards, then the other, maybe stepping all the way to the front or walking. From here, inhale, push into the shins or the floor, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hands come all the way back up. And then down to heart center, Anjali Mudra. And then all the way back by the sides. Okay, so you're going to do 2 more. You're going to try to move with your own breath. I will be doing the postures at the same time, but just trust your body, okay? When you find that downward dog, it's a 5 breath hold. You can always hop straight into that plank rather than stepping if you're feeling super fiery. When you walk the feet to the hands, you can either walk or hop if you're working on the hop. Taking a breath or 2 in that Tadasana when you get there, and we're going to go straight into our last round of Sun A. And again, when you walk the feet, you can either step or hop, taking that halfway lift. And again, finding that Tadasana, soft gaze, hands by your sides. Nice. Okay, so we're going to go into Sun B now. So I'm going to lead you through 1 round of Sun B, and then you're going to do 2 rounds on your own. Again, this is just exploration, so don't worry if you don't get it all completely correct. This style of practice is called Mysore, when you just kind of lead yourself. So I'll guide you through the first round of Sun B, and then you'll try 2 on your own. So feet together. And we're going to sit straight into chair, okay? So squeezing the knees together, squeezing the thighs, inhale straight into that chair. And then exhale, hinge at the hips, folding forwards. Inhale, press into the mat or the shins, halfway lift. And then exhale, either step or hop straight back into plank and come through your vinyasa. Your choice. I'm just not doing full chaturanga because of my shoulder today. Pushing into downward dog. Now from this, we go straight into stepping right foot forwards, back heel drops into warrior 1, hands up to the sky. And then right away on our exhale, hands come down. So it's a fast movement. Step the foot back into plank, take a vinyasa, your choice. Using the inhale to find either baby cobra, full cobra, or upward dog. Straight into downward dog, no hold here, step the foot forwards, drop that back heel, keep the hips and the shoulders forwards, inhale straight into warrior 1, exhale straight down. Straight into vinyasa. Your choice, if you're tired, you can always take that child's pose variation, and this is where you get to have the break. Bum comes high, downward dog. Whew. And again, you can move or you can be still. If your hamstrings are tight, keep a soft bend in those knees, just so you get that really long extension in the spine. And then again from here, either stepping or hopping the feet to the hands. Bring the big toes to touch, hands on the shins or the floor, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And then we inhale straight into chair, okay? Rather than standing, then exhale back into Tadasana. Okay, so a lot faster this one. Let's try 2 more. Again, I'm going to be doing it, but take it at your own pace and see if you can do it on your own. So when you're ready, you inhale into chair and then use the breath. And remember, you don't have to be moving at the same pace that I am. Move at a pace that works for you, works for your breath. It's the last down dog. That's your 5 breath hold. When you rise up, it's into chair pose, Utkatasana, then back into Tadasana. Once you find that Tadasana, a couple of breaths here. Catch your breath. Whew. Should be feeling nice and warm now. The rest of the class is going to be quite static. There will be a few more vinyasas, but this is kind of the fastest we'll move. So let's do our last sun salutation B. Inhaling, arms come high, sit into that chair. Exhale, start to flow with your own breath. And again, when you find that Tadasana, just finding your breath, soft gaze, and just feel into the sensations. Feel into how the body's feeling, what signals it's giving you. Nice. Okay, so we're going to move into just a couple of the standing sequences and then we're going to go straight to our bum. So right foot's going to stay put. We're going to step back with the left foot and turn to face the side of the mat. If it needs to be the other foot so that you can still see what I'm doing, then do that. We need to turn our toes in. This is going to help us with an anterior tilt. When the toes are out, this helps us with a posterior tilt. Okay, so anytime you're folding forwards, toes slightly in, this helps with the hips and the placement of the femur bone. So from here, take the hands onto the hips. You're going to inhale first, and I want your sternum to reach high to the sky and your shoulders to come together. Lift, 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 lift. Hinge at these hips, start to come forwards, and then you're going to bring your hands onto the mat. If you have tight hamstrings, you can always use your block, but if the hands reach, then that's great. Now from here, just lengthen the spine, halfway lift. And as you exhale, start to let the head drop. Now, what I want you to do, worry less about how close the head is getting, and instead place a little bit more weight into the balls of the feet and think about stretching. Don't look at me, but think about stretching the very backs of your legs. So it's like you're trying to tilt the lowest part of your butt cheek up to the sky. Now, some of your knees might be slightly bent. So instead of focusing on getting that head all the way down to the floor, think about elongating the very back of that leg. So pressing into the ball of the foot, sending that bum higher, and then maybe bringing that head down further. Staying for 2 more breaths. In Ashtanga, we hold poses for 5 breaths. You come into a pose, hold for 5 breaths, and then transition or move. And the transitions aren't like flowy like vinyasa. They're very kind of static. So from here, onto the fingertips, halfway lift. Then bring your hands onto your hips, soft bend in the knees, rise up to standing. Good, okay. Second pose here is either, feet stay the same, either hands clasped behind the back, but if with the hands clasped behind the back, you can't get the hands very far, this is where your strap can come in handy because we're gonna bring the arms over the head. So either hands clasped together or grab your strap, make sure the toes are still dialed in. Just like we did before with the hands on the hips, you're gonna drive the knuckles down, squeeze the shoulders together, puff up the chest, hinge in the hips, and slowly start to come down. Good, now this time hands won't come onto the mat, they're gonna come over the head. Now, don't worry about how close the head is. What I want you now is to focus on the same thing we just did. Weight coming into the balls of the feet, lengthening the skin on the back of the legs, and trying to get that lowest part of the butt cheek up to the sky. Slow the breath down. Nice big inhale. And as you exhale, see if you can release the shoulders, release the head. Good. Do 3 more like that. Last one. Good. From here, you're going to lift your back to halfway, softly bend the knees, and roll all the way back up. Good. Taking the strap just to the floor if you were using it, and then shuffle, 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 shuffle the feet back in. Okay, so the last of the standing poses before we come onto our bum is our tree pose. And I'm gonna really dissect tree pose today, okay? And a lot of it has to do with the standing leg. So I want you to start to take your weight into your left leg, okay? So weight into the left leg, and then just take your right heel into your left leg, okay? Toe on the floor, like a super baby version of tree pose. And then I want you to just rotate side to side, okay? This is just showing you how much movement there is with the femur bone and that hip, okay? So we can rotate in and out. Come back to center. What this is demonstrating and what happens often, if you can, suck your toes off the floor just a little bit. So now the toes aren't on the mat. Start to pull your right knee out to the side, but let your hip move. Okay, you might use a wall, you might flop out. What happens often in tree pose is people go to open up this hip, but then they just rotate the femur. So this hip isn't actually opening at all. Okay, it's kind of staying in the exact same position, and the movement is coming from that standing leg, and we don't want that to happen. So let's just try that on the other side. So standing now on the right leg, and then just kind of just getting used to this oscillation. Okay, there's a lot of movement. Then if you can, suck your toes off the floor, start to open out that left knee. You're gonna stop because that's as far as the hip will let you, and then allow your right femur bone to move in the hip, and your whole pelvis changes, okay? We want these hip bones to be facing forwards. Alrighty, so how do we stop this from happening? It's something called torquing. And what we wanna do is we wanna torque the standing leg bone out to the side so that both hips are going and opening. Okay, so let me make this a little bit more easy. So come back onto the left leg and either toes on the floor or just suck them off the mat. Now what I want you to do is torque your left leg bone out to the left, and you're gonna feel your booty engage, okay, to do that because the butt has to kind of open up that hip. Now start to open up, the right hip. Feel the difference. You're pulling your left leg bone out to the left and your right leg bone out to the right. The butt should be firing like crazy and your hip isn't moving. So now when you come into tree, it's so much more true to what is happening in this hip versus just turning the torso. Okay, let's try it on the other side. So standing on the right leg. Okay, we're not taking too much balance into this. Very simple, toes basically on the floor. Now start to torque your right leg out to the right as you start to take that left hip out, keeping those hips facing forwards. You might even take your hands onto your hips, okay? Your knee might not be going out as wide as it normally does, but you're gonna get a lot more opening in the hips. We're getting the purpose of the pose, okay? Yes, it's about balance, but it's also about opening up the hips, hence the knee out to the side. Okay, so now let's up the balance. So tree, toe can be on the floor, toe can be sucked into the side of the leg. You can be hanging out on calf muscle, no to the knee, or bringing that foot into the thigh. So finding the balance on the left leg, let's bring our hands to heart center. And then either toe on the floor, toe a little bit higher, maybe calf muscle, maybe thigh. Lengthen, start to torque left leg out to the left, then take that right leg. You're gonna feel the butt working. Your butt should be squeezing like an imaginary walnut between it. Either staying there, try not to look at me because I'm moving all over the place. I'm gonna throw your balance. Look at something unmoving. Hands can stay at heart center, or you can bring those hands up to the sky. Keep torquing those legs in opposite directions. You're gonna get a much stronger booty and you're gonna get a lot more opening in those legs. Good, with control, bring the hands back to heart center. And then step that right foot onto the floor with control. We'll go straight to the other side. Weight goes into the right leg. Start to take that left foot onto the right, sucking the toes as high as you want to go. Start to open out, right femur bone to the right as you take left knee out to the left, hands to heart center. Breathing here, squeeze that walnut. Once you find your balance, hands might come up to the sky. Okay, you might move, don't look at me again, I'm moving, so you want to look at something static, a spot on the wall, something on the floor. Good, hands come back to heart center with control, placing that left foot back onto the mat. Good, and then shaking out the legs. Nice work, guys. So we're gonna come onto the floor now. You can either come through a vinyasa or you can just follow me. So if you wanna do a vinyasa, I'll explain how. So standing again at the top of your mat, inhale, hands high. Exhale, hinging at the hips. From here, either hop back into a vinyasa or just step into downward dog. And once we meet in downward dog, we're just gonna walk the feet forwards and bring the bum onto the mat. Good. All righty, so we're staying on the bums for the rest of the class. The first pose of the Ashtanga seated series is a pose called Dandasana. And Dandasana is the groundwork to Paschimottanasana, to Marichyasana, to Janushirshasana, all of these seated poses. Now, what you want to do first is extend the legs and flex the toes. Now, if when you extend the legs and flex the toes, this is really intense because you've got tight hamstrings, you're going to grab your friend the block and you're going to sit on the block, okay? This does not mean that you are cheating. This does not mean that you are not going to get the benefits of the pose. This means that your lower back isn't going to take all of the kind of tension, which isn't what we want to do. So either sitting on the floor or sitting on a block. I want you to imagine that there is a zipper between the thighs, and you're going to internally rotate the thighs and zip those thighs together, flexing those feet, okay? Super engagement. Now, hands either flat on the floor. If you're on a block, unless you have super long arms, you're going to be kind of fingertips on the floor, okay? So I actually don't need the block, so I'm going to come off of it. So from here, we're going to engage all of the bandhas or the yogic locks, okay? So starting first with Mula Bandha, okay? So this is the kind of pelvic floor lock. So you want to feel like you're pulling the pelvic floor in. So there's a lot of kind of squeeze in this area of the body. Then we have Uddiyana Bandha, which is our tummy lock, okay? And so you're going to bring the navel kind of in towards the spine and then up. So there's like this, instead of just being soft in the belly, you want to ha, okay? It's nothing crazy, you can breathe. And then the last bandha is our Jalahara bandha, okay? So instead of sending the chin out, you're going to slightly tuck the chin and you're going to kind of almost give yourself a double chin. So you're really strong in the throat. So hands pressing down. Now, I don't know if you can see, but my heels lift. This is not the aim. This is just because I've got hypermobility in my knees. So very active, legs are active, pelvic floor is drawing up and in, tummy is drawing up and in, throat is locked, chin is down. Let's take 5 breaths here. Big inhale and exhale. Good. 5 breaths. Try to keep all of these locks. If you are doing this pose with all of those locks engaged, with all of the muscles engaged, you will be tired after Dandasana. Two more breaths. You might even start to see your legs shaking. Gaze is kind of towards the shins or the toes. Gaze is called drishti. Nice. Okay, from here, we're going to do 2 rounds of Paschimottanasana. Your legs stay the same. If you're sitting on a block, stay on the block. We're going to inhale our hands up to the sky, hinge forwards in the hips, and then let the hands drop. Now, if you are very blessed with long hamstrings, go for the toes. If you aren't, okay, I want you to stay with wherever the hands drop on the legs. Now, from here, you're going to squeeze the backs of the shoulders towards each other. You're going to lengthen your spine, and then the movement comes from the hips. You squeeze in the hips. Now, what's happened to those legs? Keep that zipper done up. Keep those toes coming towards the face. Inhale, find length. Exhale, squeeze the hips a little bit further. 3 more breaths like this. What we're avoiding is this in the spine, okay? We do not want to round the spine here. You're going to get opportunities to round the spine, but we're not there yet. Good, okay. So when we transition into the second round of Paschimottanasana, in Ashtanga, they assume that you've got hamstrings to the gods. They're super stretchy. So if you can, you're going to move into the second variation of Paschimotto, where you're holding the outside edges of the feet. Now, if you look like this to grab the feet, you're not going to do that. You're going to grab your strap. Okay, so you're going to grab your strap, either holding the outside edges of the feet and getting a nice straight spine, or grabbing that strap. Once you have the strap in your hands, take the elbows out wide, so your elbows aren't down to the sides, they're out nice and wide. Inhale, find length, and then exhale, soften the grip on the strap. You're not like muscle arming yourself forwards. You're going to squeeze the hips. Okay, so imagine I'm holding my strap. Inhale, find length. Exhale, I'm going to squeeze my hips to come forwards. Inhale, find length. Exhale, I'm going to squeeze my hips. Those who have the feet, just work on trying to straighten the spine as much as you can, okay? 2 more breaths wherever you are. Good. Nice. From here, let the feet go soft. Just let your strap go. Hands come behind you. Okay, our counter pose is reverse plank. So either reverse plank or reverse tabletop. Reverse plank, zip the legs together, point the toes, push into the floor as you squeeze the shoulders together and lift the bum. If that feels really intense on the lower back, bend the knees, lift the bum, reverse tabletop. And just take 2 breaths, either with the legs straight in that reverse plank or lifting the bum, reverse tabletop. Good. Bum comes straight down. And then in an Ashtanga series, they like to add a bit of cardio and a bit of core in between all of these seated poses. So lots of Navasana boat poses to come, but we're going to do them step by step. So let's start with the hands underneath the knees. Come on to the toes. Now from here, what I don't want us to do is arc the back and send the chest up to the sky. So what I want you to do here is start to draw the belly in. So belly is going to draw in towards the spine. Imagine this is the bottom of your boat. You want it to be rounded, not flat. Then from here, just lift the toes off the mat. Imagine you're still holding that strap, elbows nice and wide. Look slightly up and on an angle. Keep drawing the belly button in towards the spine. Lift the heart, but not lifting it so much that you're arcing your back. Okay, you want to keep this slightly rounded. This is going to protect the lower back and get the core to engage. Nice. From here, cross the ankles in Ashtanga. You roll over those feet and jump straight into plank pose. Okay, either from your plank, go straight to downward dog, or if you're feeling fiery, you take a little vinyasa. Pushing into downward dog. And then from here, you can either step or a little hop forwards to seated. Okay. And then we come into our Janu. Okay. So we're going to extend the right leg first. Left foot comes into the thigh. Letting that knee drop out. If your hips are really tight, you can always take a block under the knee. If you were using the block at the start, I would definitely sit on the block here. Right leg, toes flex, pulling your front quad, your front thigh into your hip. Good. From here, you're going to turn your torso so that you are facing that right leg. Okay. Then from here, a few options. Okay. Depending on where you are. Hands either just on the side of the leg if you know you've got tight hamstrings. If you are more open, you might be able to grab the foot. If you are very, very, very flexible, you are going to grab your left wrist and come up and over. This is the bind, okay? If you're there. So it doesn't matter where you are. What is important is the upper back, okay? So the exact same rules for the hips and the shoulders, okay? So before you do anything, draw the backs of the shoulders towards each other and try to really lengthen the crown of the head up to the sky. Big inhale. As you exhale, squeeze the hips to try to bring yourself further down. Keep flexing that right foot. If you are folding quite a lot forwards, you're not going to keep looking at the toe because this is going to crease the back of the neck. So you're going to look more towards the shin. Okay. Just going to get rid of the dog. Come on. I know. Good. And then lifting up, and we're going to go straight to the other side. So switching the legs, this time left leg extends, flex that foot, turn the torso, pull that thigh up and towards the hips, and then your choice again, okay? So hands either on the sides of the legs. If you can reach the foot, grab the foot. If you want to go for the bind, you're going to grab your right wrist this time, and then up and over. Inhale, find length. Exhale, squeeze the hips to try to bring yourself further down. All of this action is coming from these hips. And this is what I really want you to remember, is that it's coming from here and not the upper back. Now, if you're up quite high, probably looking towards that foot. If you can come quite low, you're tucking the chin slightly to look more towards the chin, the shin. Good. And then we're rising up and we're going straight into Navasana boat pose. So we're going to start in the same way we did last time. So hands underneath those knees, onto those tippy toes, slight round in the lower back. Okay, draw the belly in, toes come off the mat, elbows out nice and wide. Option one, stay here. Option two, you're going to start to lift those toes in line with the knees. If you come here and you're totally releasing, you need to stay lower. The key to Navasana is to keep the thigh and the belly quite close together. So there's this sucking, this squeezing in. And then from here, we stay for 5 breaths. If you're holding those knees, if the legs are up, elbows out wide, keep drawing the belly in towards the spine. 2 more breaths. Good. Cross the ankles, roll over those knees, straight into plank. Take a vinyasa, or you can just go straight into that downward dog. And from your downward dog, whenever you get there, you can bend the knees or you can walk forwards, whatever works for you. Straight back onto the bum. The right leg comes forwards. And this time we're going to bring that left foot onto the mat. So Marichyasana C. This is not my favorite pose, okay? And it's one of the poses that I don't teach a lot, and it's because of accessibility, which means that many people can't really get into this pose. So we're going to take it step by step, and I'm going to encourage you, if you can't get the bind on this, to use a strap. It's a bit fiddly, I'll be honest. So right leg, doing the exact same thing. Your left foot, probably about 2 fists away from your right thigh, okay? And then try to bring the heel as close as you can. Then from here, what you're going to do is reach forwards with your left hand, okay? And this is where it gets a bit tricky. Once the left hand is forwards, turn it away from you, and you're going to start to reach that arm around the knee, okay? So some people now would be able, with their right hand, to reach around. I'll show you from the side so you can see how far off I am. And this is because of a shoulder injury. My fingers, there's no chance that they can reach. If you can reach your hands, you then really squeeze and straighten the spine. If you're like me, there's no chance that you're getting that connection. You're going to grab your strap, take it around with you. And this is where it's all a bit fiddly, because you've got to kind of throw the strap into the other hand. Or you can do what I did, which is like sort of a cheat. And then from here, once you have that connection, it's such a pain. I'm just not a Marici fan. From here, you want to straighten your torso over your right leg and fold over your right leg. Okay, so there's a lot happening in Marici. If you can bind really easily, it's a much easier pose. But most people that I work with, this bind is actually quite challenging. With the front knee, once you have the bind, you want to pull that knee in towards center. Okay, the knee will naturally want to drop out because the hip's lazy. Good, and then release. From here, you're going to take that left foot up and over the right, and we're going to take a nice twist. So left hand behind you, right hand lifts. 2 options. You can either hook the elbow, but if you hook the elbow and round the back, I want you to just hug. Okay, flex the right foot. Inhale, find length. Exhale, twist. Inhale, find length. Exhale, twist. One more. Good. Okay, Marici on the other side. So this time, left leg extends, bringing that right foot in, 2 fists away from that left thigh-ish, okay? And bring the heel as close as you can. Flex your left foot. You're most likely going to need your strap. You're going to reach forwards with your right hand, start to wrap it around, and then trying to throw the strap into the other hand, okay? Now, once you're here, flexing that foot, turn the torso so that you're over your left leg, and then really try to straighten the spine, hinging from the hips coming forwards. Right knee, if it's flopping out to the side, use the hip to pull that knee back in. Just breathing here, doing the best you can, really. And then gently releasing that bind. You're going to grab your right foot, take it up and over the left, right hand behind you. 2 options again, either crossing that elbow over the knee or just giving a little hug. Inhale, find length. Exhale, start to twist. Good. Then we twist back to center. This is our last Navasana. This one actually doesn't lead to a vinyasa, so it's just Navasana. Either option 1, toes just off the floor, elbows wide. Option 2, toes in line with the knees. If you feel strong enough to release, hands let go. If when you release the hands, the toes drop, just means that you don't have the strength yet, so come back to either of those other variations. Look forwards, don't look at me. Find a nice long neck. And just take 5 breaths here. Keep the elbows from dropping if you're holding the knees. If the hands are extended, palms facing forwards. Good. Your feet are going to come down and we're going to go straight into Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together. I'll turn on a little angle. and drawing those heels in. Now, if when you draw the heels in, you feel like you're going to do a roly-poly, what does this mean? It means that you need a block under your bum. Okay, so grab that block. Again, this is going to help you with that anterior tilt. So either opening the feet like a book, okay? If you're on a block, you probably won't be able to reach, so grab your ankles. Elbows drop to the thighs. Now, what we're not doing here is turning into like these turtles with no necks and rounding our upper back. You want to draw the shoulders down, and this might be that you're sitting up totally straight. You're squeezing the hips. Think about that position that we started the class in, that forward fold with the legs wide. Exact same place that we're working those hips. Inhale, find length. Exhale, fold. Squeeze those hips. That's what's going to send you forwards. 3 more breaths. Close your eyes if that feels good. Nice. And then seamlessly, without even really thinking about it, walk the feet forward so that they're in more of a diamond shape. And then just thread the arms underneath the legs and fold round forwards. Head comes down towards the feet, pulling on those shins. And here we get to just totally round the back. And then just gently rising up, coming into a seated position. So we cross our legs. Again, if seated, okay, this is called Sukhasana. If this is difficult, just grab a block and sit on the block. This will make it easier for you. We're just going to come into a little meditation. So hands resting on those knees, slight tuck of the chin, closing the eyes, let the belly go. Just simply observing here. Shoulders away from the ears. Observing the surface sensations on the skin. Observing any movement from the breath. Observing the atmosphere of the mind. Observing any sensations of openness. Observing any sensations of tension. Soften the muscles of the face. And then just gently start to bring the hands to heart center, keeping the eyes closed. Letting the fingertips touch. Seal the palms. And then allow the thumbs to connect to your sternum. Just feeling this energy coming from the left hand to the right hand to the left, from the heart center to the thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, and then pinky finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb, and back to heart. And then just really slowly start to part the eyelids just a touch so that you can start to bring in little bits of light, perhaps shapes or colors. And soften the eyes open a little bit more and take in the very tips of your fingers. And just gazing down at the fingertips, eyes open. Watching the fingers rise and fall with the rhythm of the chest. And then gently guide the thumbs to the space between the brow, closing the eyes again, bowing forwards. Namaste. Well done. So that is the seated component of the Ashtanga series. There's the standing component that I did last month. And then next month, which is just around the corner, we're going to look at the inversion sequence and the resting sequence of the Ashtanga series. So taking sort of 3 classes to really divide that series up, and then we'll do the whole thing together. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can go and enjoy your day.